My beloved brothers and sisters, imagine lying in bed tonight, your mind racing with the worries of tomorrow, when suddenly I tell you there's a name, just one name, that if you recite it 21 times before you close your eyes, by morning, your life could be touched in a way you never imagined. Now, I know what you're thinking. If it's that simple, why hasn't everyone done it already? Well, that's where the real story begins, because this isn't just about repeating a sound, it's about unlocking a divine key placed in the hands of those who truly understand its power. And before I share it with you, let's journey through the moments in life when we desperately need a miracle, those nights when no plan, no money, and no friend could solve what you're going through, and yet, in the stillness, a single remembrance can change your entire dawn. But be warned, this is not something to take lightly, for the one who knows it and uses it with faith steps into a realm where impossibilities bow down. And in a few moments, I'll tell you the name, but first, let me show you why missing this could mean missing the miracle you've been waiting for all along. The power of specific divine remembrance before sleep is a spiritual treasure, often underestimated in its depth and magnitude. Yet it is a practice that has been deeply embedded in the lives of the righteous, saints, and those who seek closeness to Allah throughout history. When a person prepares to sleep, they are, in essence, surrendering themselves to a state in which they have no control over their physical faculties, their surroundings, or even the beating of their own heart. In that vulnerable moment when the consciousness begins to drift and the body succumbs to rest, the believer who engages in the remembrance of Allah intentionally seals their day with a profound act of worship that resonates far beyond the hours of slumber. It is not merely the movement of the tongue, but the alignment of the heart, mind, and soul in a single focused intention to call upon the one who never sleeps, the one whose watchfulness extends over all creation without pause or fatigue. Before sleep, the mind often replays the events of the day, revisiting its worries, mistakes, triumphs, and hopes for tomorrow. For many, this becomes a moment of either peace or anxiety, a time when thoughts can either soothe or burden the heart. The one who turns to specific divine remembrance redirects this mental activity into a sacred channel. The tongue repeats, the heart absorbs, and the soul listens, creating a sanctuary within the self where worldly concerns dissolve into the awareness of Allah's presence. This act is not random, it is deliberate. By invoking a specific name of Allah, each of which carries its own weight, meaning, and spiritual effect, the believer taps into the attributes of the divine in a targeted way. Some names invite mercy, others grant protection, some open doors of provision, and others bestow healing. This focused remembrance becomes a spiritual key, unlocking blessings aligned with the very essence of that divine name. In the stillness of night, when distractions fall away, the potency of Dhikr multiplies. There is no rush to be somewhere, no conversations to interrupt, no duties pulling the mind in different directions. The heart is quiet, the environment is calm, and the soul is most receptive to divine connection. In this silence, the repetition of Allah's name becomes a rhythmic melody that synchronizes the inner state with the infinite presence of the Creator. Each repetition is like a drop of pure water falling into the heart's well, cleansing it of accumulated impurities from the day. The heart, which may have been stained by impatience, anger, or heedlessness, is polished by the light of remembrance until it begins to reflect divine beauty. The believer falls asleep not in heedlessness, but in worship, and this alone transforms the entire experience of sleep into a form of ongoing ibadah. One of the remarkable aspects of engaging in specific divine remembrance before sleep is its influence on the unseen realities that surround a person. Islamic tradition teaches that angels record the deeds of a person and that specific remembrances act as shields against the whispers of shaitan. When the tongue moves in the remembrance of Allah, the darkness is repelled and a sphere of divine protection encircles the believer. It is as if the name of Allah itself becomes a fortress with walls built from divine mercy, and within it, the sleeping soul rests under the guardianship of the most powerful. This unseen security is not simply symbolic, it is real, shaping the unseen forces that interact with human life during sleep, a time when the human being is most defenseless physically and spiritually. There is also a profound psychological and emotional dimension to this practice. Reciting a specific name of Allah with focus before sleeping plants seeds in the subconscious mind, which continues to process and respond to that spiritual input throughout the night. Modern neuroscience has demonstrated that the final thoughts before sleep strongly influence both the quality of rest and the mental state upon waking. In the case of divine remembrance, the believer's last conscious moments are filled with words of sacred significance, ensuring that the subconscious is not haunted by anxiety or negativity, but instead infused with divine assurance and peace. As the soul experiences this state during the night, the believer often wakes up with a refreshed heart, a mind ready to face the day's challenges, and an unshakable sense that Allah's care has enveloped them during their most vulnerable hours. Spiritually, this practice can also serve as a means of self-purification and transformation. The specific name chosen for remembrance can reflect the believer's needs or aspirations. If they seek forgiveness, they might recite Al-Ghafur. If they desire sustenance, Ar-Razak. If they need healing, Ash-Shafi. By consistently invoking a name connected to their inner state or external circumstances, they align themselves with that divine attribute in both conscious and subconscious ways. Over time, this shapes their character and life experiences, making the Dhikr not merely a request but a means of transformation. It shifts the believer's perspective from self-reliance to complete dependence on Allah, which in turn relieves the burdens of anxiety and hopelessness. Moreover, this act of remembrance before sleep is an acknowledgement of human mortality and the reality that every night could be one's last. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught that sleep is like the minor death, and upon waking, one should thank Allah for returning the soul to the body. By ending the day with specific dhikr, the believer essentially prepares for the possibility of meeting Allah in the night. This transforms the remembrance into an act of preparation for the hereafter, a quiet but profound readiness to face the divine with the tongue still wet from his praise. Such an approach elevates the act from routine to sacred urgency, reminding the believer that time is fleeting and that every night is a gift, not a guarantee. It is also important to note that the benefits of this practice extend beyond the individual to the environment they inhabit. A home where Allah's name is recited consistently before sleep becomes a place of tranquility and divine presence. It is shielded from harmful influences, filled with an atmosphere of spiritual serenity that impacts all who dwell there. Children who witness their parents ending the day in remembrance learn the value of turning to Allah in every state, and this habit becomes embedded in their own lives. In this way, the simple act of personal dhikr before sleep can ripple outward, shaping family culture, strengthening bonds, and building households grounded in faith. Over time, the believer who commits to this practice experiences not only a shift in their nightly routine, but also a change in their daily life. The morning after a night of dhikr often carries a subtle but powerful difference, a heightened sense of clarity, a readiness to handle challenges with patience, a deeper gratitude for blessings both small and great. The world's noise may still be present, but it does not penetrate the heart as easily. There is a growing resilience, a spiritual stability that anchors the believer regardless of external circumstances. This is the unseen fruit of a seed planted in the quiet moments before sleep, watered by sincerity and nourished by divine mercy. The power of specific divine remembrance before sleep is not tied to grand displays or outward dramatics. Its strength lies in its intimacy, its sincerity, and its consistency. Whether the believer is on a journey of healing, seeking provision, yearning for guidance, or simply wishing to end the day in gratitude, the deliberate invocation of a particular name of Allah transforms an ordinary human need into an act of worship that echoes into the unseen and influences both this world and the next. It becomes a nightly pilgrimage of the soul, a return to the source, and a quiet but powerful preparation for whatever lies ahead in the dawn that follows. Faith is not merely an abstract belief held in the heart. It is a living force that shapes perceptions, decisions, and the outcomes one experiences in life. And when this faith is deeply rooted in the remembrance of the divine, it transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary opportunities for divine intervention. The connection between faith and miraculous outcomes lies in the unseen spiritual laws established by the Creator, where sincerity of intention, constancy of devotion, and unwavering trust become keys that unlock blessings beyond human calculation. When a believer engages in specific acts of remembrance with conviction, such as invoking one of the beautiful names of Allah before sleep, it is not just a ritual of the tongue, but a declaration of the soul's alignment with divine will. This alignment creates a harmony between one's spiritual state and the decrees that unfold in the unseen, allowing the heart to anticipate with certainty that the night will carry hidden gifts into the dawn. Faith acts as a bridge between the temporal and the eternal, carrying the supplications and hopes of the believer to the realm where divine command is issued. And in that sacred exchange, miracles are born, not always in the form of what the mind imagines, but always in the form of what the soul truly needs. A heart that remembers Allah before resting surrenders its worries into the hands of the one who neither sleeps nor forgets. And this surrender is itself a miracle, for it transforms anxiety into serenity and fear into trust. Many miracles are subtle: peace that descends in the midst of chaos, guidance that comes in a moment of confusion, protection from harm one never even knew approached. But they are no less miraculous than the parting of seas, for they are tailored to the believer's journey. The Quran and Sunnah repeatedly affirm that divine remembrance is a cause for tranquility, and tranquility is fertile soil for the blossoming of divine favors. When the lips whisper His name with focus before the body rests, the angels are sent to God, the heart is illuminated, and the unseen is set into motion in ways beyond human comprehension. This practice is not superstition, but a conscious engagement with the promises of Allah, who has declared that He is as His servant expects Him to be. Thus, when the remembrance is performed with the expectation of a miracle, that expectation becomes part of the supplication, and the night becomes a sacred meeting between human vulnerability and divine generosity. Faith conditions the believer to recognize miracles not as random accidents, but as intentional responses from the one who hears every whisper. When a person goes to sleep after sincere remembrance, their heart is shielded from arrogance in the face of blessings and from despair in the face of trials, because they understand that the outcome, whether sudden provision, healing, clarity, or relief, comes directly from Allah's mercy. This perception alone is a miracle, for it changes how one receives and values the gifts of life. Without faith, even the greatest favor might be dismissed as coincidence. With faith, even the smallest ease is cherished as a divine sign. The miraculous outcomes that follow divine remembrance are not always visible to the eyes of others, for sometimes they manifest in the unseen realm, influencing events, decisions, and opportunities long before they reach the physical world. Faith sustains the believer through the period between supplication and fulfillment, allowing them to rest in the knowledge that Allah's timing is perfect and His wisdom unerring. This trust removes the impatience that often robs people of peace and replaces it with a calm assurance that what is meant for them will find them in the most fitting way. When one recites a specific name of Allah with sincerity before sleep, the act becomes a spiritual key, and faith turns that key in the lock of destiny. This is not because the believer commands the miracle, but because they have chosen to align themselves with the source of all power and mercy. Miraculous outcomes in this light are not always dramatic flashes of the supernatural, but are often the quiet rearrangements of life's circumstances, so that the believer is placed exactly where they need to be at exactly the right time. Sometimes the miracle is averted harm, other times it is unexpected ease, and at times it is the strength to endure what one thought was unbearable. Faith is also the lens through which these events are recognized for what they are. Without faith, a person might wake up after a night of divine remembrance and overlook the fact that their heart feels lighter, their mind clearer, and their path more certain. But with faith, they recognize that this state was not self-produced but gifted, that the serenity they feel is a manifestation of the mercy they invoked before sleep. Faith teaches that Allah is Al-Kareem, the most generous, and that no act of remembrance is too small to yield a return beyond imagination. This connection between faith and miraculous outcomes is further strengthened by the believer's consistency. A single act of remembrance can open doors, but a heart that makes this remembrance a habit creates an ongoing channel for divine mercy to flow. Over time, the believer comes to expect miracles not with entitlement, but with gratitude, knowing that each morning after such remembrance is an opportunity to witness how Allah answers in ways that surprise and humble the servant. This cycle of remembrance, trust, and gratitude draws the believer ever closer to their Lord until the very fabric of their life becomes woven with divine signs. The world may scoff at the idea that repeating a divine name before bed can transform one's circumstances by morning, but faith is not concerned with worldly skepticism. Faith looks beyond the limits of human logic to the infinite capacity of the Creator. It sees the night as a sacred space where supplications are carried, where angels record, and where the unseen decrees are shaped in response to the sincere devotion of a heart turned entirely toward its Lord. In this sacred space, the believer's role is to remember, to trust, and to expect, not to dictate the form of the miracle, but to remain open to receiving it in whatever way the divine chooses. Through this unwavering trust, the believer experiences the truth that faith and miracles are inseparably linked. One sustains the other, and together they create a life where even the smallest moments can become gateways to divine intervention. The remembrance before sleep is thus more than a nightly routine. It is a declaration of loyalty to Allah, a reaffirmation of dependence upon Him, and an act of preparation to receive His mercy in ways the heart cannot yet imagine. Spiritual preparation for receiving blessings overnight is a sacred act that begins long before your head rests on the pillow, because the state of your heart, mind, and soul as you enter the realm of sleep plays a profound role in what you awaken to. Nightfall is not merely the end of a day. It is a divine invitation to step away from the noise of the world and step into the silence where only your soul converses with its Creator. For those who truly understand the unseen mechanics of faith, every night is an opportunity to unlock treasures far greater than any wealth the day could bring. It is in this quiet space, when the world retreats into slumber, that the unseen blessings descend in abundance, seeking hearts that are ready to receive. Spiritual preparation, therefore, is not simply about ritual. It is about cultivating an inner environment that aligns perfectly with the mercy and generosity of Allah, allowing the soul to be a worthy vessel for divine favor. The process begins with cleansing, not only in the physical sense, such as performing wudu, but in the spiritual sense of removing the residue of the day's sins, grudges, and emotional burdens. One cannot hope to receive the finest of blessings with a heart heavy with anger or a mind clouded by bitterness. Forgiveness before sleep is a powerful act. It releases you from the chains of resentment and opens the floodgates of mercy to pour into your life. Imagine approaching the King of Kings with a gift in your hands. Would you present it wrapped in dust and dirt or polished and pure? Likewise, when we seek to receive blessings overnight, we must first ensure that the gift of our heart is presented in its purest form, free from the stains of worldly negativity. Another essential element of preparation is intention. The tongue may speak dhikr, but without intention it becomes empty sound. Before closing your eyes, speak to your Lord in sincerity, declaring not only what you seek, but also why you seek it. Is it for personal gain, or is it so that you may be better positioned to serve others and live in obedience? Such clarity of purpose magnifies the impact of your remembrance and aligns your soul with divine will. Intention transforms routine words into powerful spiritual keys that open doors unseen. It is the quiet yet firm declaration in the heart, "O Allah, I trust you. I believe in your power. I await your mercy." The physical environment also plays a subtle yet important role in spiritual readiness. A cluttered, noisy, or chaotic space can agitate the mind and disrupt focus. By creating a peaceful and clean sleeping area, you are signaling to your heart and soul that you are entering a sacred time of connection. Lighting a small lamp